So there's a lot of questions about what you guys should be writing off on your tax returns, what you guys shouldn't be writing off on your tax returns when it comes to your assisted living home, and if there's really any benefits that you guys can actually utilize having an assisted living home specifically for tax purposes. So in this video, I'm actually going to discuss that, so make sure you guys stick around. What's up, everyone? I hope you guys are all doing well. If you're new here, my name is Serge. Welcome to the channel. To all my reoccurring viewers, guys, thank you so much for all the love and support that you've shown this channel. And if you haven't yet, and if you're new, go ahead, go request yourselves into the Facebook group that I've created called Legion Assisted Living Academy. I will link it down below. You guys can also go search it on Facebook. And make sure you guys actually answer the 3 questions prior to requesting yourselves. So without further ado, let's go ahead and actually jump into the topic of this video. Now, before I start on this topic, I actually want to just say I'm not a professional CPA, so I highly recommend that you guys go and hire a professional CPA to actually structure your guys' taxes, your entities, etc. And also just hire professionals who will actually be able to do all of this for you guys. It will be worth every single dollar that you guys actually invest in hiring these people, because they will ultimately be the backbone of your business as well, along with your caregivers. But with that being said, I just want to tell you guys about the tax return that I had for last year for my assisted living business and exactly what I wrote off, because I know that a lot of you guys are wondering, could you write off everything, or could you guys just kind of leave it and just write off whatever expenses that you guys actually just have, like reoccurring monthly expenses? And I will break down exactly why you guys should be considering both. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. There's different ways of actually doing taxes, okay? Depending on what you guys actually filed for the entity that you guys have created for your business, depending if it's an LLC, a C Corp, S Corp, all of this depends on how you want to structure your business. And each one is completely different. And I advise every single one of you guys, like I mentioned, that you guys go hire a professional to actually structure that. But for me, and using my business as an example, I went ahead and filed as an LLC for my personal business, and that's just a limited liability company. And for the people who don't know what that is, it's literally the most easiest thing to file for and probably the cheapest, and I highly recommend that you file for an LLC. And depending on what your CPA actually advises you guys, once you guys start making some income, then you guys can actually switch over to filing as an S Corp, where that ultimately just pays out the owner as, an actual employee, a salary, because it will end up saving you guys money for what the business actually profits for that year. But with that being said, make sure that you guys talk with your CPA and get that figured out. But what I actually wrote off on my taxes were strictly my startup costs, because I did start my business last year in 2018. And so therefore I was able to write off the entire amount of what it actually cost me to start up my entire business, everything from the furniture to consulting, to all the paperwork that I had to do, even just getting my manager's license, my caregiver certificate. All of that I was able to write off because it was part of the business and it's strictly for business purposes. And so you guys are actually able to write this stuff off when you guys go pay the $600, $700, whatever it may cost you guys to get any of these certifications. You guys are actually able to write that off as a business, and therefore I did that. I went ahead and wrote off all that. But then I also started writing off all my reoccurring expenses that I had for the business. I wrote off, even the utilities. I wrote off my rent. So the reason why I suggest that you guys try to rent the home as, instead of buying, is only for the purpose of if you don't have the capital to buy it, but then you're also able to actually write off what you guys paid in rent for the business. And so that's nice. If you guys were just coming out of pocket every single month and you guys weren't making any money on the property that you're paying rent, it's really not worth it and it's probably not a good deal. But since I am actually running a business out of there, for me personally, it's worth it, and rent isn't too bad. But with that being said, I was able to write off my rent and then my utilities, and then anything that I buy for the business, groceries, any type of supplies that I get, cleaning supplies, etc., I'm able to write off on the business. And you want to be careful not to write off every single thing. Last year I did a lot of driving around trying to get everything figured out for my business and getting it all up and going. And so I drove a lot, and I didn't keep track exactly of how many miles. I did try to use an app, but I kind of guesstimated from the time that I moved there until I was going to file my taxes, I try to utilize or try to guesstimate as much as I could on how many miles I drove. So you guys want to be careful when it comes to the vehicles and writing off your gas, because it may be worth it to just write off the mileage that you drove, or you can write off the amount of money that you spent on gas. You could do either or. The one thing that I found from filing my taxes, it was actually driving more miles actually benefited me more and was able to write off more than what I paid in the amount of gas that year. So it ultimately comes down to you guys and how you guys want to structure that. But then you also want to be careful if you're going to buy a vehicle for the business. The one thing you guys want to take in consideration is the way it works with a vehicle when you buy it under your business. If you were to go get a loan under your business, you're going to be required to put more of a down payment on the vehicle, and also your interest rate is actually going to be higher. And then on top of that, when you go to sell the vehicle, what happens, the government actually just depreciates your vehicle a lot quicker than as if you were to go buy it under your personal name. And so what happens there is when you go sell your car or your vehicle a couple years down the road, and it's worth more than what they've actually valued the vehicle, or at least what the IRS valued your vehicle, you're going to end up paying capital gain taxes on the difference that you actually make. And I know that doesn't make sense, but if you're thinking of just getting that vehicle for long term, go ahead, buy it under the business. It's kind of nice to just be able to write that off in the beginning of the year, or that year that you buy it, or whatever year is coming up after you buy it. It's kind of nice to just be able to write it all off. And if you're going to keep it for years on end and probably until it breaks down, then it may be worth it. But with that being said, guys, just keep that in mind when it comes to buying vehicles or any type of equipment. And then you have depreciating assets, right? Anything that you have that has to do with the equipment that you have for the facility, that will depreciate over time because the wear and tear, etc. So therefore, you're able to write off those on your taxes. And so with that being said, guys, I didn't write off everything that I could have written off, because you want to be careful when you do that, because when you go to do your taxes, you want to make sure that you actually are showing that you're making some income. And I know this may seem obvious to a lot of people, probably people who are older than me, but for the younger generation, I want to tell you guys that taxes and understanding taxes is not the funnest thing. It's not fun to just sit there and have to figure out with your CPA what works, what doesn't work, but I can guarantee you it will lead you to a massive amount of success to be able to actually understand taxes and what works, what doesn't work, how to structure everything. And also, guys, do not go and file for an entity or someone who tells you that it will cost you $2,000 to file for an entity. That is just absurd. I've heard of that, and it's really not the case, guys. You guys don't need to go be paying people thousands of dollars, and I highly recommend staying away from anything. I say LegalZoom, but I've used them. Not that I've had any trouble with forming an entity with LegalZoom. It's just not as professional. And then on top of that, you're kind of letting a computer do all the work. It's someone who you've never met, someone who is just doing it because it's what they do, and they don't really stay in contact with you afterwards. Whereas if you go hire a professional, or you just do it yourself, I mean, the articles of corporation are pretty, self-explanatory when you go and file for an entity. And with that being said, guys, just be very careful about taxes, because either you do it you try to do some things and try to finagle some things, or you write off things completely. That will not benefit you guys at all long run. The only reason why people are going to actually write off everything is if it's strictly the only business that they have. They kind of have a nice setup. They have a home already. They're not looking to finance anything. They're not looking to go get loans from anything. So, to avoid paying a lot more taxes, they will just write off everything and in a way make it look like they're not making much money. But then there's penalties for that as well. If you're a business and you're not showing that you're not making any income, there will be penalties and consequences for that as well. So just be very careful about that as well, guys. With that being said, I pretty much wrote off what was reoccurring every month, in which I talk about that in a video, which I will put up here, and you guys can go watch that, what my monthly expenses are. and then payroll, and then also what I pay myself. But that all comes down to how you guys structure it and how you guys decide to go about it with your CPA. But yeah, guys, that is pretty much it when it comes to taxes. Just make sure that you guys have somebody who's actually really good, someone who comes recommended from your family, friends, other CPAs. Don't go try doing it on TurboTax. Don't try go doing things on your own and filing things on your own, because I can guarantee you, you will have the IRS outside your door ready to knock and tell you, hey, you're being audited. And then on top of that, guys, your CPA does take the liability off of you for the most part, because they are the ones who look at your numbers, they look at your statements, they look at everything. So if there's something missing or something that isn't correct, that's who the IRS goes and talks to, is with your CPA. You don't want to be there trying to deal with all that, because I haven't gone through an audit, knock on wood, but I can only imagine how stressful it is. It's just probably as bad as getting sued. And it's not fun, guys. They literally look at everything in your life, and it's really not fun. So stay away from trying to finagle the system and do things the right way. File your taxes at the right time. I highly recommend that you guys start filing your taxes or working on getting all your taxes set up, about 6 months before taxes are due. I remember I started last year like in October, if not sooner than that. I started getting everything ready, meeting with my CPA, getting them everything, making sure we were on time. If you guys stuck all the way to the end, thank you so much. Go ahead, if you haven't yet, hit that like button for me, guys. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for me. And if you guys haven't, go ahead, join the Facebook group that I've created called Legion Assisted Living Academy. And go watch all these other videos, guys. They're very informative. They'll help you out a ton. I do have a playlist for you guys regarding all the assisted living information. So make sure you guys go watch that. And so, guys, thank you again. I appreciate every single one of you guys. And I will see you guys all in the next video. God bless. Peace.